Alrighty, folks, there we go. I do see the audio is working. This is kind of an unscheduled we had some audio glitch before. I fixed it. Really didn't make sense. I think it was a glitch in the program, but turned the audio off and on, and that worked. All right, Facebook Live. We're normally here at 10 a.m. Eastern Saturdays and Sundays, but did one a little earlier with no audio, and we did figure it out. There you can see below, 59 and 36 with all my football picks since preseason. Huge portfolio today, but let's get straight to it. Road teams are 192 and 130 this season for 59.5% winners. Road favorites, 65.4% this season. Double-digit road favorites are 24 and 9 this season. That's Virginia Tech, Marshall, Central Florida, Texas Tech, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Penn State, Army, Fresno, Alabama, Louisiana Tech, San Diego State, Western Kentucky, and Georgia. All right, there we go. It is using this microphone. Sorry about that, folks. Crazy day, crazy day. 22 and 7 if the total is less than 75. That would exclude only Texas Tech from the above. Underdogs of 31 or more are 43 and 20. Some news and notes. Central Florida and Cincinnati. UCF is the top against the spread margin team in the country. They have covered all three games by an average of 26.5 points per game. Now, realize that because of Hurricane Irma, they've played fewer games than most. Compare it to Cincinnati at minus 7.1, and they are 2 and 3 against the spread. Teams playing at least their fourth game with an against the spread margin difference of minus 33 points or worse, or 17 and 36 against the spread. So that would favor UCF. Basically, when you compare the two teams' ATS margin, if there is a difference of at least 33.3 points, go with the much better spread margin team. Cincinnati wide receiver Khalil Lewis is probable. 24 catches this year after 48 last season. Minnesota and Purdue. Purdue's actually the best spread team in terms of teams with 4 or more games. They are 3 and 1 at plus 18 points per game, also known as the sweat barometer. Markel Jones will play for Purdue. He had 875 yards and 616 yards rushing the last 2 years. Played briefly in the opener before getting hurt. This year's leading rusher, Tario Fuller, is out. He missed the last game versus Michigan State after getting 261 yards on 6.1 yards per carry the first 3 games. 24 mile per hour winds. And this neato software that, even though it had a glitch, one of the things it allows me to do is make a copy of this, send it to YouTube. If you're watching the rebroadcast on YouTube, please join us Saturdays and Sundays, 10 a.m. Eastern, live on Facebook. Sportsbook Review. Just look that up on Facebook, and you can talk to us live. And regardless of where you're watching this, please give us a like. It's a vote of confidence. Again, normally 10 a.m. Eastern time, we had an audio glitch, so I am re-recording, but got ways. I'm going to do a test on a low-volume Facebook page that I have beforehand, just to make sure all the audio is working, so should have no problems in the future. New software, folks. Missouri and Kentucky. Missouri, the second worst spread team in the country, 0-4, minus 21.1 points per game. Ole Miss and Auburn. Ole Miss, 0-4, minus 15.8 against the spread margin. Auburn may rest last year's leading rusher, Cameron Petway, as he deals with an ankle injury. His replacement, Kerryon Johnson, has 8 touchdowns the last 2 games. Going with teams off a dominant win, 606 and 437 for 58.1%. That would favor Auburn. Ball State and Akron wins at 17 miles per hour. Remember, anything above 15% we definitely consider to be significant. Michigan State versus Michigan. We're going to have more on this in a while. Wound up splitting the notes there. But big road underdogs and a low total. 344 and 219 for 61.1%. That would favor Michigan State. Remember our premium plays, offshoreinsiders.com. See the bottom of the screen for details. Louisiana Tech, Lafayette, and Idaho. UOL, the top over team in the nation, going over all 4 by an average of 36 points per game, though Idaho under 3 and 1 for 7.8. Miami and Florida State. Florida State wide receiver Auden Tate was limited in practice, but he's probable. 13 catches for 226 yards and 3 touchdowns. He had 6 touchdowns last year. Florida State wide receiver George Campbell had 5 catches. He is questionable. Miami is your free pick, by the way. Miami Hurricanes, your free pick. Maryland and Ohio State, 18-mile-per-hour winds. And going with teams off a dominant win, 606 and 437 for 58.1%, Ohio State. Sorry if I'm talking a little faster, but that's what happens when you have an effing glitch, audio glitch, and we are re-recording this, as I said, but we'll be fine in the future, 10 a.m. Eastern, Saturdays and Sundays, and I will make sure I will do a test broadcast on a low-volume Facebook page I have to make sure I catch anything before it's too late. Colorado State and Utah State, 18-mile-per-hour winds. SMU and Houston. Houston, the number 1 under team in the country, going under all 4 by an average of 17.9 points per game. Pittsburgh and Syracuse. Syracuse wide receiver Sean Avant is out. He's got 4 catches in 2 games. LSU and Florida. Running back Darius Geis is probable for LSU. 65 carries for 314 yards after getting 1,387 last year and 7.6 yards per carry. LSU is reeling from their 24-21 loss last week to Troy. Road teams off of a home loss as a favorite of 20 or more, a modest 28-35 against the spread. That does favor Florida, but my point is I wanted to see how teams off of losses similar to LSU in situations like that would do, and they generally do not bounce back. Again, college football remains the number 1 momentum sport, but it's kind of not totally that way the past couple years, but again, LSU is a team to fade. Generally, teams like that in heartbreak situations struggle. Arkansas versus South Carolina. South Carolina running back Rico Dowdle should play despite a thigh injury. Rough year, just 126 yards on 2.8 yards per carry this year after getting 764 and 5.7 last season. Arizona and Colorado. Colorado is going under 4-1 by an average of 16.3 points per game. Duke and Virginia. Duke averages the nation-leading 92.2 snaps per game. Again, as I said, that snaps and pace are more important than anything else when it comes to handicapping sides and totals. And offensive and defensive competence are important as well. Georgia and Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt, the fewest snaps in the nation at 54.8. Iowa State, Oklahoma. Oklahoma number 1 in yards per play at 8.9, a full yard higher than number 2 Oklahoma State. So they are far and away the best team in the country in the most important category, yards per play. Iowa State quarterback Jacob Parrick is out. 100 completions this season for 61.7 completion percentage, 9 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Virginia Tech and Boston College. Virginia Tech running back Steve Peoples, who sat out versus Clemson, is questionable. 16 carries for 60 yards this year. Tech wide receiver C.J. Carroll is questionable. 10 catches for 124 yards. Western Kentucky and UTEP. Western Kentucky dead last in yards per play at 3.7. West Virginia and TCU ranked home teams off of a bye, 93 and 61. That benefits TCU. All right, back to Michigan. Michigan State. Michigan, the best defense in the country in terms of yards per play. Again, that's the most important stat. They're allowing just 3.3. To give you an idea, the next best team is 3.6. Alleged double-digit rivalry underdog, that's a myth, folks. Double-digit underdogs, 4-3 against the spread in this series, but just 1-2 the last 3. Michigan wide receiver Kakoa Crawford is questionable. He's got 7 catches in 4 games. Ranked home teams off a bye, 93 and 61. That would benefit Michigan. Bowling Green, Miami of Ohio, some of the stronger winds, 19 miles per hour. Illinois and Iowa. Iowa running back James Butler remains out. Transfer from Nevada, where he had a combined 2,700 yards rushing the last 2 years. Big road underdogs in a low total, 344 and 219 for 61.1%. That would benefit Illinois. Makes perfect sense. Getting a lot of points in a game that's expected to be low scoring, the points are more valuable. Kent and Northern Illinois, 16-mile-per-hour winds. That stat we just told you about big underdogs, low total, benefits Kent. Stanford and Utah. Utah quarterback Tyler Huntley's doubtful, 73.3 completion percentage, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Stanford starting quarterback Keller Christ returns from an injury. He will start. His replacement, K.J. Costello, is expected to also play. Costello more versatile. Chris was mediocre before the injury, to be honest with you. Ranked home teams off a bye, 93 and 61. That benefits Utah. Penn State and Northwestern, 17 miles per hour winds. Texas Tech and Kansas. Texas Tech wide receiver Kiki Kute is a game-time decision. 31 receptions for 499 yards. Make sure you visit SBR odds as we get closer to game time. Texas Tech players admit it. Took a heartbreaking loss to Oklahoma State. Very difficult on them, so can they bounce back? 17-mile-per-hour winds there, as well as Illinois and Iowa. Oregon State and USC. USC, again, tough stretch for them. They beat Texas in overtime, struggled to Cal, lost to Washington State, beat the rival Stanford, and they got Oregon State and Utah ahead of them. But Oregon State outscored by 25.2 points per game, 30 on the road. They are the single worst spread team in the country, 0-5 this year, minus 21.6 against the spread margin. OSU quarterback Jake Luton is out for the season. But backup quarterback Darryl Garrettson, the new starting quarterback, had 7 starts the last 2 years, 3,297 career yards passing. Oregon State leading rusher Ryan Neal is questionable, but 5-star recruit Thomas Tyner returned last week, and he led the team in rushing last week. Tyner's got 1,356 career yards. Eastern Michigan and Toledo, 15-mile-per-hour winds here. Biggest consensus plays, 2 biggest, Marshall and Northern Illinois. As I said, I got several sources. After that, it was Auburn and San Diego State. Sorry, folks, for the earlier glitch, but we got it figured out. Join us every Saturday and Sunday, 10 a.m. Eastern, on Sportsbook Review, Facebook Live.